All right, welcome in everyone. Ready to take a deep dive into the world of Bob Camblin?
Always up for a good art deep dive, especially with someone like Camblin. He's definitely a unique one.
Absolutely, and we've got a pretty good spread of material to dig into here today.
Oh yeah. Like what?
Well, we've got some excerpts from this book, all about Camblin, his exhibition history, even a collection of his quotes are really something else.
I can imagine from the little I know of Camblin, I bet those are pretty insightful.
They really are, and to round it out, we've got a YouTube video analyzing one of his paintings, Mechanical Landscape.
Mechanical landscape, huh? That one's really something when you start to unpack all the layers there.
And that's our mission today, right?
Yeah.
Unpack it all. Camblin's artistic philosophy and how it plays out in his work, especially those recurring themes that pop up.
Yeah, yeah. Those are the threads that when you pull on them, they kind of unravel the whole tapestry.
It's like from the get-go, Camblin had this very distinct view of what art even is. He's got this quote where he says, "Art is not just images. Art for art's sake has become art for life's sake, or art for my sake, or art for survival's sake."
It's like he's going beyond that whole idea of art just being this, separate thing.
Like some purely aesthetic thing that exists in a vacuum.
Yeah, exactly. He's tying it to life, to our very existence, even survival.
It's essential then, not just a luxury.
Right, right. And that idea, it gets even more interesting when you look at how much he emphasized the process over the final product.
He did. He really did. Success will be another failure, he said. Process and awareness of it cannot be failure.
And that's where the Zen philosophy really starts to shine through, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Because in Zen, that journey is just as crucial as where you end up.
Yeah, it's not about reaching some kind of perfect endpoint.
It's that continuous process of growth and awareness,
You
right?
got it.
So bringing it back to Camblin, a painting isn't just about that final image,
It's every brushstroke, every choice he made, even the struggles along the way.
which, speaking of, we've got mechanical landscape to dig into. I mean, we've got this description from the book and that YouTube analysis. What are we looking at here?
Well, right away, you've got these contrasting elements. You've got a ram skull, pretty stark image, right?
Definitely gives a sense of decay, right?
Exactly. But then you've also got these branches all intertwined.
Suggesting growth, renewal, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all done in this muted pastel palette.
Which almost makes you want to lean in, study the details more closely.
It does. It draws you in. And then there's the human figure, almost hidden, blended into the landscape.
It's there, but you really have to look for it.
And that's so crucial,
Yeah.
because it connects us to the scene.
That link between humanity and nature.
Exactly. A huge theme in both Zen and in Camblin's work.
And then you've got those winding paths weaving through the painting. What do you make of those?
The paths. Oh, they speak to the cyclical nature of time, I think.
That sense of constant change, that flux, yeah.
Yeah, and that's so central to Zen thought. It's like he's packing so much symbolism into this one piece.
It's like he's saying, look closer. There's way more here than meets the eye.
Oh, for sure. Way more. It's like he has this quote where he compares looking into an atom to looking into magic.
Saying they both reveal what we need.
Right. And I think that totally applies here.
Hmm.
Mechanical landscape, like an atom, you got to really examine it, spend time with it to see that deeper reality.
There are also all these layers of meaning that connect to the I Ching, this ancient Chinese text, right?
Yeah.
With all those hexagrams.
Oh, yeah, the I Ching, fascinating stuff. There's this one, hexagram 18, work on what has been spoiled, which really resonates.
Work on what has been spoiled. What does that mean in this context?
It's about renewal, about confronting decay and allowing for growth to happen.
So the ram skull, those broken branches, it's like they're pointing to this need for restoration.
Exactly, yeah. Camblin seems to be saying, hey, don't shy away from the decay.
Face it head on.
Exactly, and recognize that even in death, there's this potential for new life. And this isn't just an idea in his art, it's how he viewed the art world itself.
He wasn't afraid to call out what he saw as problems, that's for sure. Like there's this quote where he's talking about the art world's focus on shock and recognition. He calls it consumer art. And you can feel his concern, like he's worried about the lack of contemplation.
You can almost hear that tension in his voice, right? Like he's really struggling with this idea of creating meaningful art. When the culture around him just wants the next big thing, he literally says, puts me in a bind, which, I mean, that's so raw and honest.
But the thing is, despite that struggle, He never gives in. He never compromises his vision.
It takes guts, especially in the art world where validation can feel so crucial. It says a lot about his integrity, about how committed he was to his own path. And it makes you think about those other quotes of his, like, do your own thing and know thyself.
He was all about staying true to yourself no matter what.
Mhm.
And when you look at the recurring motifs in his work, that idea is everywhere. Nature, trees, clouds, birds, water, but then also decay, skulls, dried leaves, those broken branches again.
Like he's always exploring those two sides of the same coin, those two sides of existence.
And those motifs, they tie right back to those Zen concepts we talked about, that impermanence, that interconnection of everything. I mean, think about that quote where he lists these 5 totally random thoughts that just crashed into his mind all at once. A girl in a white dress, Jomo board, Mother Nature, painting a classroom in the ghetto, haiku, or the one with the starlings sitting among the broken branches, no new buds growing. And then there's that image, so stark. White crystals, white salt, white wing, white bones, dead bird, dead lake, dead sand, dead land.
He was pulling these seemingly unrelated things together, finding meaning in the ordinary and even beauty in those broken things.
But how does that fascination with decay fit with his focus on process and renewal? It seems kind of like a paradox,
It's all about perspective, I think. He's not glorifying decay. He's acknowledging it as part of this natural cycle, life and death, creation, destruction. It's about accepting that impermanence, and then through that, you can start to see that potential for renewal.
Which brings us to another one of those recurring themes, right? The power of observation, of really truly seeing. That quote, one must learn not to look, but to see. What do you think he meant by that?
I think he believed that art could be this tool, this way to break free from those habitual ways we see the world. He wanted us to engage with what's in front of us, not just glance at it and move on.
But then he also says the real seeing has its own property of deception. It becomes a whirlpool of relationships going in all directions form the point of entering. So it's not always simple, this seeing.
No, it's not. And that's where his personality comes in, that humor, that love of paradox. When understood, all truth is funny, right? Or that image of the ego following you as gracefully as a goldfish's shit. I mean, come on, that's hilarious.
Brilliant.
Exactly. He's challenging us to question everything we think we know.
To find the humor in those unexpected places.
It's like he wants us to play along with him,
Look for those hidden layers, those connections. And we're really only scratching the surface here.
Oh yeah, there's so much more to uncover with someone like Camblin. We've explored some of his philosophy, those Zen ideas, his fascination with nature and decay, but there's always more to discover.
Well, we'll have to save that for next time then, because we're just about out of time for today.
Sounds good to me. I'm already looking forward to it. This is one deep dive that just keeps getting more interesting. Thinking back to what we were talking about with Camblin rejecting that whole consumer art thing, it's almost like he was wrestling with how to create meaningful art when the world around him is so focused on trends and what's popular right now.
Yeah, you really feel that tension in a lot of his quotes.
Yeah.
That sense that he wants to create something that lasts, something with depth. But the culture is just pushing for instant gratification, for that next consumable piece of content.
You can really feel that internal struggle he was going through. I mean, he even uses the phrase "puts me in a bind" when he's talking about it, and that just feels so raw and honest.
Yeah, it does. It does. But the thing is, he never compromises.
Right. Yeah.
He never gives in and starts creating that shock art just for the attention.
No, he doesn't. He stays true to himself, and that's huge, especially in the art world where it feels like you need that validation. It really says a lot about his integrity, how committed he was to his vision. And it makes those other quotes like "do your own thing and know thyself," they hit different.
It's like he's saying, forget the trends, forget what everyone else is doing, just be yourself.
Exactly. Just focus on that inner voice.
So what was he aiming for then? If he wasn't trying to create that consumer art, what was his ultimate goal?
I think he wanted to create art that really engaged with people, that invited them to think, to contemplate, not just, look at it and move on.
He wanted to create an experience, not just a pretty picture.
Right, an experience, and one that was rooted in those Zen principles we were talking about, that impermanence, the interconnection of everything.
He was trying to make viewers active participants, not just passive observers.
Yeah, and that ties back into his whole focus on process over product, The way he created art was just as important, if not more so, than the actual finished piece.
It's about the journey, not just the destination.
Exactly. The art itself becomes a kind of medication, both for him in the creation process and then for us as we take the time to really see it.
It's like we're not just looking at what's on the canvas, but we're also understanding all the thoughts, the struggles, the decisions that went into making it.
Yeah, all of it, even the mistakes. And those motifs, those recurring images of nature and decay, they're not just random,
They represent that cycle, life and death, creation and destruction.
It's happening all around us
Yeah.
constantly. And Camblin he's highlighting that. He's urging us to look beyond the surface and see the beauty in that process of decay and renewal.
Don't be afraid of the darkness, the imperfections, the things that are falling apart.
Because there's beauty there too and potential.
That's a tough idea to wrap your head around sometimes,
Yeah.
finding beauty in decay.
It is. But that's part of what makes Camblin's work so interesting, so compelling. He's not giving us easy answers. He's making us think, making us challenge our assumptions. And then there's that playfulness, that sense of humor that just pops up in his quotes.
When understood, all truth is funny.
Yeah.
It's like he's found a way to laugh at the things most of us take so seriously.
And that extends to his art as well. He's not trying to tell us what to think. He's inviting us to engage with it on our own terms.
Giving us the tools, the ideas, but then it's up to us to make those connections, find our own meaning.
He trusts the viewer to complete the process. And that feels so relevant today, especially with everything being so instant, so black and white.
Yeah, it's like we're always looking for that quick answer, that easy solution. But Camblin's art it's the opposite of that.
It's about embracing the complexity, the contradictions, the messiness of life, and finding beauty in all of it.
That's a powerful message.
It is a powerful message, and it speaks to how art can challenge us, can expand our understanding of the world, but maybe we should pause here for a moment. We've covered a lot of ground, and I think you, our listener, you probably have a lot to think about right now.
As we're going through all this material on Camblin, one thing that really strikes me is his personality. Those quotes, they're so witty, so paradoxical.
Yeah, he's not your average artist, that's for sure. He's got this way of mixing like deep wisdom with this sense of whimsy that just makes you pause and think, wait a minute, did he really just say that?
Exactly, like when understood, all truth is funny. It's like he saw life as this big cosmic joke.
There's this real playfulness there, like
Uh,
an acceptance of how absurd it all is, and it's refreshing and thought-provoking at the same time. And it's not just in his words, it's in the art too.
Oh, absolutely. He never seems to be taking himself too seriously.
Yeah.
Like that quote about the ego being hidden and following you as gracefully as a goldfish's shit. I mean, who else would even come up with that?
It's so brilliant, so unexpected, and that image, it's weirdly accurate. Like he's poking fun at how self-important we all are, reminding us that our egos they're pretty insignificant in the grand scheme of things.
And that circles right back to those Zen ideas, right? Letting go of the ego, embracing the present moment. It's like he found a way to laugh at the things that most of us take so seriously.
And that's what makes his art so engaging, I think. He's inviting us to loosen up a bit, to let go of that need for certainty.
To embrace the ambiguity, the humor in life.
Yeah, like, hey, let's not take ourselves so seriously, let's just play with these ideas, explore possibilities, see where it takes us.
And that's a huge message, especially in a world that feels so divided, so black and white. Camblin's art is like, hey, embrace the nuance, the contradictions, find the beauty in the mess.
So if we were to try and sum up everything we've learned about Camblin into one takeaway, what would it be?
Oh man, that's a tough one. But I think it's that Camblin truly lived his philosophy. It wasn't just talk. Those Zen principles were woven into everything he did.
Absolutely. And he challenged us to do the same, right? To look at the world with fresh eyes, question what we think we know, find joy in the unexpected.
He was a one-of-a-kind artist, a truly unique voice. He used his art to grapple with those big questions, life and death, the meaning of it all. And he did it with a sense of humor, a twinkle in his eye.
Well said. And as we wrap up our deep dive here, I really encourage you, our listeners, go out and experience Camblin's work for yourselves. Spend some time with those paintings, read his words, see what speaks to you.
Yeah, you might just find yourselves laughing along with him, questioning everything you thought you knew about art, about life, about everything, maybe even seeing the world in a whole new light.
As Camblin might say, when understood, all truth is funny.
And on that note, that's our deep dive into the art and life of Bob Camblin. We hope you enjoyed the journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep finding that beauty in the unexpected.